Yo, small business owners, remember when you thought avocado toast was expensive? Well, those were the good old days. Try dealing with your landlord these days. It's like they're on a mission to drain every last penny. We're seeing rent payments skyrocket, like up 12% in May compared to last year. That's insane. It's like a never-ending roller coaster ride. It's like your landlord saw the price of eggs and thought, hey, I want in on that action. Seriously, what's next? Look, I get it. Inflation is hitting everyone hard. But this is getting ridiculous. But somebody needs to tell these landlords that we're not running money-printing businesses over here. We're just trying to keep our heads above water. We're just trying to survive, pay our employees a living wage, and maybe, just maybe, have enough left over for a decent cup of coffee. Is that too much to ask? Is that too much to ask? A little empathy would go a long way. This rent situation is getting out of hand. It's pushing businesses to the brink. We're talking about the lifeblood of our economy here. The small businesses that make our communities vibrant and unique. They are the heart and soul of our neighborhoods. They're the ones creating jobs and bringing life to our neighborhoods. Without them, our streets would be empty and lifeless. But they can't do that if they're getting crushed by rent. It's a vicious cycle that needs to stop. It's time to take a stand. We need to come together and make our voices heard. We need to figure out why this is happening and what we can do about it. Solutions are out there. We just need to find them. Because let's be real, none of us want to live in a world where the only businesses left are giant corporations and their boring, soulless storefronts. Keep it real, people. Support your local businesses and let's fight this together. Okay, so what's the deal with this rent explosion? Why does it feel like every time you turn around, rent is going up? Well, it all boils down to one thing: inflation. It's not just a buzzword, it's a real force affecting our wallets. And no, I'm not talking about your Instagram feed being flooded with influencers trying to sell you overpriced detox tea. I'm talking about the kind of inflation that impacts the cost of living. I'm talking about the economy. The big picture stuff that trickles down to affect us all. See, there's this thing called the Producer Price Index, or PPI. It basically measures how much businesses are paying for stuff. You know, raw materials, supplies, all that jazz. It's a key indicator of economic health. And guess what? The PPI has been going up, which means businesses are paying more for everything. This increase doesn't just stay with the businesses. Now here's where it gets fun. Or not so fun, depending on your perspective. Landlords are businesses too. Surprise. They have to deal with these rising costs just like any other business. And just like any other business, they're feeling the pinch of rising costs. They have to find a way to cover these increased expenses. So what do? They pass those costs on to you, the renter, in the form of higher rent. It's a chain reaction. It's the circle of life, but with more spreadsheets and less Hakuna Matata. It's a never-ending cycle of cost increases. It's like a game of hot potato, but instead of a potato, it's your hard-earned cash. And the stakes are much higher. And nobody wants to get stuck holding the potato when the music stops. So the next time you see your rent go up, you'll know why. The Kisensen. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Hassan, I get it. Inflation is up, landlords are hurting, but maybe they're just upgrading the spaces. Maybe they're making things better for us. Maybe my rent increase means I'm getting a sweet new espresso machine or something. Perhaps a new lounge area or better office chairs? Nope. Sorry to burst your bubble, but these rent hikes aren't about fancy upgrades. They're not about making your work life more comfortable. They're not about giving you a better workspace or adding a disco ball to your store, although wouldn't that be nice? No, it's not about that at all. This is pure, unadulterated inflation at work. The rising costs are hitting everyone, and landlords are no exception. Your landlord isn't rolling in dough and installing gold-plated toilets. They're not living the high life at your expense. They're just trying to keep up with the rising costs of, well, everything. From maintenance to utilities, everything is more expensive. And that's the frustrating part. It's a vicious cycle of rising costs and increased financial pressure. It's not like your landlord is being intentionally malicious. They're not out to get you. They're stuck in the same economic pressure cooker as the rest of us. Everyone is feeling the squeeze, but that doesn't make it any easier to stomach a rent increase when you're barely keeping your head above water. It's a tough situation for everyone involved. So, how do we know if these rent hikes are actually impacting small businesses in a significant way? Well, we gotta look at the numbers, plain and simple. And no, I'm not talking about your Instagram follow account, although that's important too, I guess. I'm talking about cold, hard cash flow, the real deal. One way to measure a business's health is by looking at its inflow-to-outflow ratio. This fancy term basically means how much money is coming in versus how much is going out. Think of it like your personal finances, but on a larger scale. If you're spending more than you're earning, you're in trouble, right? Same goes for businesses. Now, this ratio is based on internal data, so it's not like we can just Google it. But economists and analysts use this kind of information to get a sense of how businesses are doing overall. And what they're seeing is a bit of a mixed bag, to say the least.